in the new year so far?
The children get turned around. Their finances get turned in my head, not it's on my iPhone app. Write it down on purpose before the month begins. Every dollar has a name, and if you're angry, Jesus said, don't throw the towel when I first come in the call. Unless you get halfway up and you're unable to finish it all, the seed begin to mock you and say, this man's a never building a relationship. There's another one.
Oh, here we go. I knew we had some new faces. I'm Peter, this is the church. Hi, Linda, very nice to meet you. Patrick, nice to meet you. Okay, now you guys have cheat sheet cards. Cheat sheet cards, and it's for me. Oh, you guys are for Delphi.
Your addiction. But, you know, it's better than the others. You know, my $10 a week addiction, it could be worse.
Exactly.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. First off, I'm from Houston. Well, I've lived in Houston the last 25 years, but does anyone know where Oklahoma? Just up the street? I went to school there for too many years. So my family now lives in Tulsa. So I do get to get back here from time to time. It's always kind of coming home, whether it's Oklahoma City or Tulsa. You know, it's always kind of neat to be able to talk to folks that I understand versus those I don't. I'm with Churchill Mortgage. My name is Candace, and because I asked all of you to give me a cheat sheet. You guys have a cheat sheet for me too if you need to pop up and ask a question. I'd like to just first and foremost say thank you guys for coming and joining. I tend to do this might feel kind of formal school, like you're sitting in school and sitting in class, but I tend to be, or at least I attempt to be informal. So one of the things I'll share with you, restrooms. If you need a break, or if you need a smoke break, drink break, whatever it is you need, make yourself at home. And Darren, I hope I'm okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
And restrooms are just around the fish tank, right?
Yeah.
Straight back. Straight back. Okay, very good. So if you guys need anything, don't feel uncomfortable getting up, doing what you need. If you have questions throughout the process, my hope is that this is more of an interactive process versus, someone standing up in front of a podium. You're here because you have questions or you want to learn. And we could probably sit here for weeks and I couldn't teach you everything that we see every day. So there may be some things that I may not cover. And in your workbook, you actually have a workbook in front of you. Green workbook, and you'll see this one here. And in the back, there's a section for questions. Right here, you can just jot them down as they come to you, or you can raise your hand and let me know what they are. And we'll try to address each of those for you today. We've got a few folks here that are actually going to all be educating all of us today. We have Mr. Darren Webb with Century 21. Right.
Hi, how's everybody?
And this is his location. With Darren, we have Courtney and Deborah. Thank you very much. See, I don't have you with your... See, I knew I was going to do that. And we also have Mr. Joey Scott with Churchill Mortgage. He actually lives and works in Tulsa. And we have Scott with our insurance company, ECI. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes, very good. And we have Deborah's husband. He's Italian.
Ralph.
I'm
just here to help it.
Italian.
He's the muscle.
I'm actually living in order.
Keep the meeting in order.
He was good enough to help us get all set up when Deborah and we thought we knew what we were doing. He came in and hooked us up. So, everything okay on the...
We're
Camera
recording.
as well? We're good? All right, you'll watch that battery, Tom. Thank you.
Okay.
What I'd like to do first is ask a few questions. Does anyone, I've asked several of you, does anyone not know who Dave Ramsey is? That's right. You know now, don't you? You know who Dave Ramsey is. Right? Benjamin? All right, so everyone's at least heard of Dave Ramsey. Okay, and how did you hear about this workshop? And I know I've asked a few of you. I heard emails off of Dave's site and Churchill Mortgage. Is that how you heard about it? And how did you hear about it? Email, okay, very good, very good.
I just got told I was going.
Well, see, I tell you, there's always a spouse or a friend that's dragging someone to something that they may or may not want to do, right? So that's good to know. So you're the one I really need to talk to, and yeah, very good, very good. Well, this will be, we will, let me go into the presentation here just a little bit with Churchill. And I'll tell you what we're going to tell you, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. Churchill Mortgage, anyone heard of Churchill Mortgage? If you have, major kudos, you get 10 bonus points. You've heard of Churchill Mortgage? How come? I'm curious.
Radio.
Where?
Radio.
Radio, okay. So you've heard it. We're not here, we don't have a physical office here, and we've been working with Dave Ramsey customers now for over 22 years, but we haven't had a physical location. So usually in cities we don't have a physical location, they don't know much about us. They might hear us on the radio, but are you going to use the one that you don't see every day? We've had our office in Tulsa open now about a year and a half. Is that right? About a year and a half. And I've been affiliated myself with Churchill Mortgage now for about 6 years, but again in the Houston, Texas market. And our home office is, does anyone know where Dave Ramsey lives? Tennessee?
Franklin.
That's real close, yeah. In fact, that might be his exact city. Franklin, Tennessee is where their offices are, which is, it's just a suburb of Nashville. So, anyone been there? Anyone been to Nashville? All right, you folks, well, of course, dear, I know you have been. It's a neat little city. The owner of our company, Dave Ramsey, or the owner of our company, I apologize, Mr. Mike Hardwick and Dave Ramsey grew up together. So they're both from the Brentwood area. The owner of our company, if you could follow this, father started a church when he was 17 years old. And 17. And that church was very thriving in the Nashville area. It's pretty much the Bible Belt there. In fact, I think it even might be a little bit stronger Bible Belt in the Nashville, Brentwood area than it is here in Oklahoma, which is, I didn't know when it got any more expansive than it does right here. And so they grew up going to the same church together, and their ethics and their morals, I like to tell a story because they're very interwoven, they're very similar. And what Dave talks about, he is, if anyone's had a chance to see him live in person, has anyone seen him live at one of the events? Okay, so a few of you. He is exactly what you see is what you get, whether it's a one-on-one conversation or it's in front of thousands of people, or he's on the radio. And he and the other company are just very similar. They attend all the Tennessee games. They sit side by side. I mean, they're all these years. I mean, they've been long good friends. And when Dave, does everyone know Dave's story? He filed bankruptcy in the 80s and built everything up and absolutely then lost everything. And I think he and his wife Sharon had both kids at the time. I think they may have even been in diapers when they filed bankruptcy. Is that something right, Darren? And lost absolutely everything. Real estate laws changed. He was a realtor and had made a significant amount of money. Lost it all, almost overnight. And so he and Sharon did this program, built this program, kind of pulled themselves up out of bootstraps. And it's now what we know today as Financial Peace University, and which developed a spin-off, Financial Peace Junior, to teach kids about money too, and what they learned through it. And it's biblically placed principles from the Bible on how to handle money. So I think he's done a pretty fine job, or we wouldn't be sitting here today, because Churchill is based around working with Dave Ramsey's customers and such. Sure, one other thing here with you. So, for the last 20 years, when Dave finally pulled himself up and he was trying to come up with ideas, what's going to be my next career, he decided he wanted to get up on the radio, that bankrupt defunct radio station, and teach people what he had learned. And for quite a while, he was pulling on the sleeve of the owner of our company, who had bank and mortgage company at the time, and said, I want you to sponsor me $400 a month. And Matt kept saying no, or Mike kept saying, no, I'm not going to do that, it's going to work. Well, finally he gave in, and now 22 years later, every time Dave is up on the radio, he talks about Churchill Mortgage. If you need some financial advice on purchasing a home, refinancing a home, taking that 30-year to a 15-year, then call my good friends over at Churchill Mortgage. And we've been doing business now, I think, for over 22 years. I think we're working into our 23rd year. And so with that, I'd like to play a little video of Dave Ramsey and the owner of our company talking, and they're probably going to sum up that little story even better than I did. But I like everyone to know that, if you know who Dave Ramsey is and you haven't yet done business with, has anyone done business with Churchill? Yeah, that's usually the case, and that's why we're here doing things to help, doing the workshop to help you guys appreciate who we are and why Dave does recommend us. And now that we've got an office in Tulsa, and hopefully soon we'll have one in Oklahoma City as well, I just want to introduce you to it and also provide you the educational background behind buying a home. Do we have anyone that owns a home currently? We do. We've got one. Anyone else ever bought a home in the past? Okay. And then we've got a few brand new first-time home buyers. Okay, good. That's usually a pretty equal mix then. This program is designed to help both folks that are buying a home for the first time as well as folks that have bought homes in the past. But the laws, you guys have seen on the TV where the mortgage industry kind of crashed, right? They've only been preaching that to us for about 8 or 9 years. Good. So we're because of the crash and some of the fraudulent things that took place, and from all the way up to all the way down in our industry, a lot of rules and regulations have changed and have been affected. And we like to be able to give you the tools as much as we can, as much as we know how, to prepare you for when you do find the time to sit down and talk on one-on-one with your home loan specialist, with a loan counselor, with your realtor, that you have an appreciation of what the market looks like today, of what it feels like to go through the process of buying a home. And we'll even be able to provide you, I believe we're in position today, unless Joey, you might correct me if I'm wrong here, we'll also be able to provide you a copy of your credit reports, if you like.
We're getting the information up to date, and then I will be contacting them personally to do that.
Perfect, okay. So we'll have that opportunity, and that's usually one of the first things I like to do. But let me do this. Let me go ahead and play the video for you guys, and we'll get started there. Sound. Oh, lovely. This one was
It's like one of the other people.
okay.
The third one is you got to deal with quality relationships, and the fourth one is you got to say,
Let me try. Let me flip over to another one here. There we go. No sound.
You don't have it turned up?
Click on it.
What did you turn next to that?
Slide.
A decade and a half, literally.
All right, so let me start. Thank you, guys.
Well, folks, I'll tell you this. Regardless of if he was a mean little kid and rode his pony through my yard or not, this guy does a great job. His team does a great job. They take care of Dave Ramsey listeners, and they have for well over a decade and a half. Literally tens of thousands of people have been treated right because Dave Ramsey said go to Churchill Mortgage. And Dave Ramsey continues to say go to Churchill Mortgage.
But we also know that life happens. It does. Kids come along, marriages happen, divorces happen, relocation happens. I think you were mentioning you've been relocated, and it disrupts your momentum. So we understand that even though we're going to teach and coach exactly the way Dave wants us to, we're also going to be here to help counsel with you too, based on where you are and where you want to go. So with that, what we did is we created the 7 major steps to homeownership. There's a lot of little bitty. Have we got a superstar over here? You're making everybody giggle. Yeah, I like that. I see a lot of smiley faces. So what we did is we took the steps as best as we could. We could sit here again for days and not be able to share with you everything that we've learned over the last many years in our industry. So we tried to chunk them down so that for someone who has a job outside of the mortgage or real estate industry, you could hopefully appreciate, whether it's your second or third home or this is your first home, These are the major steps. There's a lot of little micro steps in between. And in your workbook, feel free to follow along if you like. We try to mimic this based off of Dave Ramsey's. If you've ever been to any of his live events, he's always got a nice little workbook for you. Take notes if you like. If you don't, totally cool too. So step one that we will coach, and these are the 7 points that we're going to go into in depth. Establishing your budget, getting your family pre-approved, choosing your realtor, selecting your service providers, deciding on your loan program, processing your approval, and closing on your home. Give you guys a few minutes to jot that down there. For those of you that bought a home in the past, these steps seem reasonable to you. Obviously, it's choosing your realtor and shopping for your home, and there's a lot that goes into step number 3. But probably familiar with. You could probably think back through your last transaction. How many years has it been since you bought a home? 20 years. Oh boy, yeah. Oh, we're almost back to where we were 20 years ago, Gary, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
In terms of the restrictions.
It changed a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. Anyone else? It seems like there were a few other home buyers at some point in time. How long has it been since you guys bought a home?
It's been 4 years. 4 5 years.
Did you go through a refinance process?
No.
After that? Okay. How about you? Did you go through a refinance process?
No.
Okay. And you've bought home before? How many years?
10 years.
Okay, yeah, so there's, what we're going to talk about is going to be an awful lot like the process you went through, because we've kind of, history repeats itself. And we did a lot of bad things for a long time, and now we're kind of back to where we began, except we got the government that tells us what to do, which makes life fun. Great, so what we'll do, budgeting for your home financing. This is something that I think sets us apart in the industry, in that we really want you to decide and determine what your budget is. If you come to or speak with just any loan counselor, loan officer, there's about a zillion different names for what we are: mortgage broker, mortgage banker. We call ourselves at church a home loan specialists, and we are licensed. Prior to 08, 09, there was no licensing required. Pretty much anyone could jump into the business, and it made what consumers were hearing in the process very painful, because there really was not much of a structure. A structure exists today, but still, yet, even with all the structure and the licensing and the training that we go through, this is still a unique thing that we like you to know the budget. And we're not just saying, hey, you tell me what you want to spend. We're asking you to think through your entire household budget. Dave has a program out there called Gazelle Budget Lights off of his website, and we'll give you guys, in fact, inside your card, we'll do this towards the end. Inside your card, we've got all the little cheat sheets for you guys to build your smart home page with a little bit later today. But it's an interactive site. Has anyone been up on Dave's budget program before? Okay, we've got a few folks that have. Do you like it? Is it easy to use?
Yeah, we use like the monthly budget, and then we do the allocated spending. We take, zero-based budget, so we do all of his.
All of his. Well, you guys are really good students then.
Kind of heard, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard. Good. Well, it's a pretty easy program. There might be some Excel geeks out there. I kind of tend to be one of them. I like to put all my budget in Excel and work off of it there. And really, his budgeting system, it's something it's interactive. If you don't have a budget, is anyone bold enough to say that their budget's all up here? It's not really in their computer or on paper. Is anyone bold enough to tell me? Okay, that's okay. That means you all are doing a fine job. Dave he talks about on paper, on purpose. And with budgeting, if it's just up here, it's not well, see, the truths are coming out over here. I see. So if it's, put it on paper, you know, whether it's just a scratch note that you're reviewing your budget on a weekly or monthly basis, at least on a monthly basis, go through it. His program is helpful, and I believe it's free. I don't think that we charge you for it. I think it's a free program that you can access. But we ask you to go through this. This should be, if you're thinking about buying a home, is everyone looking to possibly buy a home in the next year? Anyone longer than a year? So within a year's time. How about the next couple of months? Anyone want to buy the next couple of months? Okay. So we've got a few folks. Go home, do your budget, understand what your budget means. As you talk with any loan originator, we're going to tell you based on the industry guidelines what we can approve you for, right? We don't know your budgeting system. We don't know if you like to take fancy vacations every other month and spend, 10 grand that we don't see on your credit report. We don't know your lifestyle. We don't know what it is. You may want to put Benjamin through private school, but it doesn't show up on your credit report, right? So we're not going to know about all of those nuances in your life. You do. So we want you to understand your budget and what you believe you can spend. And with that, there's some suggestions out there. One suggestion that our industry looks for off of industry guidelines are that your monthly mortgage payment, and I think I even